Hi everyone. I'm glad to be here today. Glad to meet you all. So as Suravi mentioned, I am a professor of practice, mostly in the applied AI program. So in this master's program, I do also sometimes teach in the applied data science program. Um, but this is the AI program is kind of my focus. My background, yes, like I was working in industry. It's actually been a few times. I'm now a full-time professor. But I was working at a small tech startup called Submittable, and I did kind of everything data machine learning for them. So everything from, basic data analysis and data engineering to doing machine learning and setting up some it's been a while now, so as Dr. Tarshisi was saying, things have changed in the last few years. So the kinds of models and systems I was working on getting set up for them are now ancient technology. But I have been full-time faculty for 3 years now, and am also working on wrapping up my dissertation for my own PhD. Actively, I will be defending in just a couple of weeks. So my own personal research, so for that dissertation and just for my own interest, I'm focused largely on kind of explainability, interpretability of large language models. So focused a lot on looking at those models' internal weights and mechanisms, trying to understand how they go from input to output, and what we can do to try to understand that better as they become a more important part of our everyday lives. So I'm actually located in Missoula, Montana. So if you come to the on-campus program, you won't see me there. But if you're in the online program, you'll have me for a couple of classes, and then either way, you'll probably have access to some of the content that I've designed in the program. I've worked on a few of the different courses in there, so you'll see me one way or the other. Let me go ahead and share my screen. I've got just a few slides. So I think a lot of this has already been covered by Dr. Tarshisi and by Suravi, but as Dr. Tarshisi mentioned, the University of San Diego has its own set of missions, and then we've done quite a bit of work to try to align our applied AI program within that mission. And so, a big part of that for us is making sure that it's applied. So we want to have you guys leave the program with really good practical skills, practical knowledge, things that you can apply in your future careers. And then we also have a lot of focus in the program. So every course will cover something about the ethics and morals of using AI, social good and designing AI. How can we, as we are producing professionals who are going to be working in AI, how can we get you guys so that you are adding good to the world instead of, whatever the alternative to that is. We want to make sure that we're producing people who are going to be using AI responsibly and making the world a better place with these skills. So on the screen here, there's a long list of the different faculty. These are the faculty who've been involved in designing the program. And so as Dr. Tarshisi mentioned, these are all but three of us are currently working professionals, people who are working in the field of AI from all kinds of different applications, so they have different roles, head of machine learning, managers, but also, individual contributors, people who are actively working in the field. And as Dr. Tarshisi mentioned, they are very active in helping us make sure that the curriculum is up to date. So these are people who are using these tools every day in practice, in the industry. They know what is being used, what isn't being used, what's useful, what do students need to know to get hired after graduation. So these people are very, very skilled, knowledgeable, and are going to be helping us make sure that our content is up to date. So every course in the program is a project-based course. So we have content, normal learning content. You'll have textbooks, you'll have readings, you'll have lectures, all of that. But in every course, the assignments, sometimes they're more like work assignments, where you're filling out like a Jupyter notebook, so doing coding, and working on things, a regular assignment where they have something specific for you to do. But some of them are more open-ended, where you get to choose, these are things that you're interested in. And then your final project, so we don't have final exams in any of our courses. They all have final projects, and those are all going to be, practical hands-on experience for you guys, things that you can put in your portfolio after graduation, things that would be interesting for an employer to see. Oh, they have experience working, with this tool or with this kind of data, or whatever it is that you choose for the specific course. But instead of doing an exam, which is not, in real life, as much as we in academia, there's a place for exams in certain parts of academia, but in an applied program, it really doesn't make sense. When in real life are you doing something that looks like an exam? So having something, your final projects all be projects, that was a big decision for us, that's something that we wanted to focus on. For your toolkit, the kinds of tools that you're going to be using, as I said, they get updated regularly, but you are going to be coding in Python. So all of your courses are in Python, which is kind of the industry standard at this point. There are, it's some people who are still working in other languages, or doing, C or Perl, Rust, other things, people who are deeper into the developer side. But for most people who are doing machine learning AI applications, it's all going to be done in Python, and that's what we're using. You'll also see, we have some, I'll go over the specific courses in just a second, but there's an MLOps course, so you'll be working with AWS there. You'll see some other tools, so you'll get a chance to work with generative AI. So we are doing our best. This industry sure moves fast, but we do our best to keep up with that development and make sure that you guys are getting exposed, and having experience with all of the most updated tools. And so in addition to the technical skills, learning what all of the different models are, how to build them, how to apply them, we also do have a focus on the soft skills. So every course has a component of teamwork involved. And I know, when I hear that as a student, there's an internal groan of, oh gosh, I'm going to have to work with my teammates. But it is really important. It is a skill. It's something that is hard to do, and it's something that we focus on. So you'll learn how to communicate with your teammates, how to drive a program, and we have a lot of content that's focused specifically on managing an AI based project. So project management for machine learning for AI projects looks a little bit different than project management in other fields, and so there's quite a bit of content in the curriculum about that as well. So the specific curriculum, I'll just go through the courses that we have piece by piece. I don't want to overload you guys too much with details about each course, but I'll give just kind of a teaser for each. And then, of course, if you have specific questions, feel free to add those into the Q&A or in the chat, wherever, and we can get to specific questions about curriculum, kind of depending on what your interest is. So the first two courses are kind of the foundational courses. So we have an intro, probability and statistics for AI. So this is a basic probability and statistics course, but it's all focused around the application to AI. So you'll be looking at, probability distributions, the basic statistics, things that are, behind the scenes in your AI models. What is the math that drives the machine learning, that drives the AI, that drives your neural networks? That's kind of what's going to be focused on in that course. And then the intro to ML and AI is looking more at those specific tools. So just an introduction. What are these technologies? What are the names of the models? What do they do? What are what is the difference between traditional machine learning and AI? What is that distinction when we're talking about that? So that's kind of what's going to be covered in that course, and just like a teaser to all the different things that you'll see throughout the rest of the program. Then we have Agentic AI Systems, which is actually a new course for us. As Dr. Tarshizi mentioned, we're one of the first programs in the country to have a course on Agentic AI. It is, in my opinion, the future of AI. It seems like that's where, when we're talking about applied AI, that's where everybody is going. This is the tool that everybody is going to be using. I know in my own work, it speeds up the development. It is just crazy the amount of work that you can get done when you're working with an agent. So we want to make sure that our graduates have experience doing that. That is going to be the thing, in my opinion, that people in industry are going to be using more than anything else. So that course is going to cover everything about how do the agents work, all the way to how do you build something with agents. Neural networks and deep learning gets into the nuts and bolts of those neural network models. Everything, the models that are driving all of these today's big AI agents, everything. So what is a neural network? How does it work? How does the information get passed through? What's kind of the math behind how these neural networks work? Natural language processing and generative AI. So that is going to be an introduction. You'll have a little bit of an introduction to traditional natural language processing. How do we work with text data? And then how does that feed into large language models? We'll go over kind of the basics of what a transformer model is. If you don't know, that's the architecture that is behind all of the large language models for today. And then specifically, how does a generative style large language model work, and some beginning kind of applications for that. And then that next course, the LLM engineering, is going to dive even deeper into that generative AI piece. So how do we use LLMs in practice? So this, if agents aren't the next thing, LLMs are certainly they're the current thing. That is the thing that everybody is currently so excited about. In industry, if you're doing something with what we would call AI, it's almost certainly going to be an LLM today, whether it's for computer vision or for language or whatever your application is. LLMs are kind of the kind of model that you're going to be working with. And so this LLM engineering course, it's another new course actually, and it's going to be focused on how do you actually apply those, how do you work with the tools to use an LLM in industry. Then we've got applied computer vision for AI. So this is going to go over kind of more detail about the kinds of models that are used in computer vision, and then applications for those models. So thinking about, processing video data, processing images, doing object detection, all of that is going to be in this computer vision for AI course. And then we've got a standalone course on AI ethics. This, I think, is one of the things that sets our program apart from other AI programs. Is we have a strong focus on making sure that our graduates come out and that they're going to be doing responsible work with AI, that they know what the issues are, how to address them, kind of what the state of the industry is, what are people doing in terms of regulation, but also how can you, as someone in industry, make sure that the products that you're shipping out are not going to be doing more harm than good. In the final courses, we have a course on machine learning operations. So this is that one that I kind of mentioned, where you'll actually be working in AWS and doing basically a practicum on how do you get a model. You have your trained model, and that's kind of what we have for the rest of the program. But once you have that trained model, how do you actually get that into production? So the machine learning operations course goes from model, it takes you through the whole pipeline to being able to serve your model, do updates on the model. How do you do machine learning or AI in production? That's kind of the focus of that course. And then your very last course, of course, will be the capstone project. And like Dr. Tarshizi mentioned, this is a much smaller portion of your program than a traditional master's thesis, and it's also applied. So as Dr. Tarshizi was saying, other programs are going to be largely focused on research. You probably will be part of a lab, and you will do whatever research your advisor is doing. So in most like research focused master's programs, you don't necessarily get to choose your thesis project. You kind of do whatever your advisor is doing, and maybe you get to put your own spin on it. You have an idea for it, but the research your topic itself is usually kind of chosen for you. In the capstone project, it's really wide open. We have a few, things boxes that you need to check to make sure that the project fulfills the course requirements. There needs to be some element of training to the project. So we need to demonstrate that you've, kind of demonstrate the skills that you've learned throughout the program. You will be writing a fairly comprehensive report about your project. So you'll have some experience writing a professional or academic style paper. But the project topic is totally open to you. You get to choose whatever you're interested in. So you get to pick the industry, you get to pick the data set, you get to pick the kind of model. So if you're interested in computer vision, do a computer vision project. If you're interested in natural language processing or LLMs or agents, any of those things are open to you. So that is one really nice thing about the capstone project as opposed to a master's thesis, is it really is focused on whatever you want to do, whatever you think would be most beneficial to you in the future to have as a portfolio item. That's what we want you to work on. And we'll do our best to support you in whatever that is.